What are you afraid of? If you're a creative, you've heard all the advice before. Just put yourself out there, create more content, film yourself, cold email clients, diversify your income streams. Don't compare yourself to other artists. There's no shortage of advice out there to help you with your career. You can listen to podcasts, take courses, or watch this YouTube channel, but most people don't act on it. Not because they don't know how or they can't figure it out, but because they're held back by fear. Fear of rejection, fear of criticism, fear of taking risks. In this video, I want to break down the 5 biggest fears that stop illustrators from moving forward, and more importantly, how you can get past them. Rejection, criticism, fear of communicating with clients, money fears, and one you might not expect, fear of success. I've felt every one of these, and while I've overcome some of them, I'm still working on the rest. So let's start with the big one, fear of failure. This is tied up with imposter syndrome and with being scared that you're not good enough. It's what stops more creatives succeeding than anything else. Thinking, I'm not ready, I'm not talented enough, I don't want people to see me fail. So let's tackle those one by one. If I put you on a stage to do a 10-minute stand-up comedy set in front of 50 people right now, would you feel ready? No, because I'm guessing most of you have never done it before. When was the last time you even told a joke, let alone one that you wrote yourself? And back to illustration, would you feel ready to work on an enormous advertising campaign with hotshot art directors and designers? If you've done it before, maybe you would. But if it's your first time, you'd probably feel extremely out of your depth. You don't know if you can handle it until you have the opportunity to do it. If you want to progress, you have to do it anyway, despite that voice in your head telling you that you're not ready. And what about talent? If you're at the start of your career, chances are you spend a lot of time looking at work from extremely talented creatives to get inspired. But just as often, it can have the opposite effect because we can't do it as good as they can. Why would anyone pick you when they could pick someone like Malika or Carolis or Florian? I actually don't know if any of those artists had talent when they started. What I do know is they have years of practice and experience and they've refined their skills over hundreds of projects. I'm also fairly certain they had exactly the same fears you have when they were starting out, and they probably still do. You're not in competition with those artists. Maybe one day you will be, but only if you keep pushing through the fear. The clients who might hire you right now aren't comparing you to the entire world of illustration. They're only comparing you to whoever's on their shortlist for this specific project, which might only be 3 people. And that comparison isn't necessarily about how talented the artist is, it's about whose style fits the goal of the project. When was the last time you saw one of your fellow illustrators fail? I'm struggling to think of an example. When it comes to winning projects with great clients, if they win, you see it on their social media and in their portfolio, but we never see the projects they lost out on. We only ever get to hear about that if they choose to tell us about it in person or on social media. And if they do choose to share that information, all we see is them turning that situation into an opportunity to create some content or to figure out what they can learn from it. Is that failure? Every illustrator you admire has a long, long list of projects that they've lost out on. No one wins every opportunity. No one goes viral with every social media post. No comedian gets the whole crowd laughing for every joke they tell. I tried out stand-up comedy to get over my fears. The scariest thing I could think of doing. I practiced and prepared and refined my set for weeks, and I still didn't feel ready. I had gigs where I got laughs and gigs where I didn't. Did I fail? Or did I simply get live, high-stakes feedback on my jokes? If you want to feel ready, you have to keep going long enough for things that used to be scary to become normal. But when you do that, you'll find bigger and better opportunities. So you'll always be doing something new. If you don't ever feel a bit out of your depth, you're probably not pushing yourself enough. If you want to compete with the most talented or skilled illustrators, you've got to practice and improve your skills and climb up that ladder from badly paid, boring jobs to exciting, big budget jobs. That takes time. It won't happen overnight. And if you never fail or never lose out on projects, it means you are never really in the game. Having the opportunity to fail is a privilege. It means you are good enough to be considered or watched or listened to in the first place. And that's pretty awesome. What you take away from those situations can be failure if you allow it to be. Or it can be a proud moment where you realize you are good enough to actually be considered for that big project. If you didn't get this one, what can you learn from it to improve your chances next time? If you're enjoying this video so far, don't be afraid of subscribing. I make videos every week to help you succeed in your illustration career. The second big fear is of criticism. What if people don't like your work? What if they tear it apart? This one cuts deep because illustration and art is personal. When someone criticizes your work, it can feel like they're criticizing you. Criticism is part of the job. Every illustrator and every creative, no matter how established they are, gets feedback. Sometimes it's constructive, sometimes it's clueless, and sometimes it's just plain harsh. I've seen amazing illustrators get pages of client feedback that completely changes their ideas. It wasn't because the work was bad, it was because clients have their own vision and their own goals. It's completely normal. You'll rarely, if ever, come across a client who is unnecessarily harsh about your work because it's not professional. But social media is another story. If you're putting your work out into the world, you're inviting opinions. And that's not a bad thing. It means people are paying attention. Not everyone is going to like your work, and chances are you'll get plenty of positive comments too, but there's always that one idiot who tries to ruin your day with an unnecessarily harsh comment that you can't stop thinking about. It happens to me. I hate it. I can't focus on 10 good comments on a video where I get one bad comment. And the more you grow and the more people overall see your work or follow you online, the more criticism you'll get. And knowing that can stop people wanting to share their work at all, because these are extremely real and valid feelings. Two things to think about here. Try to separate yourself from your work, whether it's a painting, a blog post, a video, or your whole style. They feel personal because you put your personal experience and your thoughts into them, but they're not you. They're an incomplete snapshot of you at a point in time. But once you've released it into the world, it becomes its own thing. It may be the best thing you've ever made, or it might not be your best work, but once it's done, you move on from it and adjust, evolve, and improve. And not all criticism is equal. Constructive feedback from a client that helps you align your work with their goals is something you need. Listen carefully, even if you disagree. You're working as a team and you work together to find the right solution. If you get feedback from a peer or someone whose opinion you respect, take it seriously. It might be exactly what you need to hear, even if, on the face of it, it's not a positive comment. If everyone you know says, "Hey, I love your work," that's a nice ego boost, sure. But what are you actually gaining from that? Better to have some considered real feedback from people who know what they're talking about. And if you get hate from a stranger on the internet, fuck them. Who cares? That's probably more about their issues than it is yours. If you never get any criticism, it probably means that no one's looking at your work at all. That's bad. If you start getting real, honest, and well-intentioned criticism and feedback, that means people are paying attention to what you're doing. That's good. Don't avoid criticism, aim to get it from the right people. Sometimes it'll be tough to hear, but it will help you improve. The next one is fear of clients. These are the people you most want to impress. They can make or break your career. A lot of new illustrators are scared of talking to clients. Some of that comes from the fear of rejection or criticism, but part of it is just how much they've built clients up in their heads. They imagine clients as these intimidating, all-powerful figures holding their career in their hands. The truth is, clients are just people. People with deadlines, bosses breathing down their necks, and projects that they need to get finished. I've spoken to a lot of clients over the years, art directors, designers, producers. Some were lovely, some were very blunt, but none of them were superhuman. Most of them were simply trying to get a job done with too much to do and not enough time. The fear of introducing yourself to clients is holding you back. That's tied to fears of rejection and criticism. But what's the alternative? You never introduce yourself, and you never get the opportunities you want. This is tough, no doubt about it, especially for introverts, and you've really got to force yourself to do it. The more you do, though, the less scary it becomes. But when a client does hire you, they're not doing you a favor. They want a problem solving, and they've hired you to solve it because they think you're the right person to do the job. When they've hired you, you're on the team, your peers, collaborators, colleagues even. They want you to succeed because they want the project to be a success. And hopefully that simple reframe can help you relax a little bit around your clients. Rejection is normal. Silence from clients you've contacted is unfortunately normal, but don't let it stop you from trying. An art director is a lot like you. They probably studied a creative subject at university, then got a shitty first graphic design job, then they worked their way up the ladder. They know exactly what it feels like to be in your shoes. And even if they're too busy to reply, they understand what you're trying to achieve. And here's a little secret. There are lots of art directors who would love to be able to make it as a freelance illustrator, but maybe they're too scared to try it. Here's another fear. Broadly, it's fears about money. That's fear of running out of it, fear of talking about it or charging too much or too little. Money weighs so massively in our lives. We need it to survive. We want more of it in most cases, but we hate talking about it, especially if you're British. A lot of illustrators would rather avoid the money conversation altogether. You don't want to scare a client off and you're worried about quoting too high and losing the project or quoting too low and missing out. I would guess that most illustrators don't negotiate that much because they'd rather just win the project than risk it. Every professional freelancer talks about money. Designers, copywriters, videographers, they all set their rates and negotiate with clients. Those rates and negotiations are based on their experience level and the popularity of the creative freelancer and the kind of project. If you're worried about asking for a few $100s extra on an illustration project, imagine how much more brave you'd have to be asking for an extra 100,000 if you were filming a TV ad. In the grand scheme of things, illustration projects are pretty low stakes. If you don't ask for what you think you're worth, the client will make that decision for you. Sometimes that will be a fair budget for the project, but sometimes it'll be way less than the project is worth and you'll be taken advantage of. Planning and preparing is the way to go here. Work out what you need to be profitable. Set your rates and practice saying it out loud into the mirror if you want to. It doesn't mean you can't be flexible, but it does mean you know what your lower limit is when a project becomes simply not worth your time. That's not unreasonable, it's just maths. Quoting a fair price doesn't make you greedy, it makes you professional. Clients expect you to talk about money, and the only person it feels awkward for is you. I have a comprehensive Skillshare class on pricing illustration. There's a link to get a free month in the description. Everything from basics to advanced stuff. It's the most detailed thing I've ever made. So if you want to get more comfortable with pricing and talking about money, just watch it. The last one I want to talk about is the fear of success. This one sounds strange because success is the goal, but it's real and it brings its own challenges. Bigger clients expect more, the work gets more complicated, and you'll feel out of your depth a lot more. Sometimes we sabotage ourselves without even realizing it because we're scared of what happens if things actually go well. I can't even count the amount of times that an illustrator has said to me that they're not doing any marketing or promotion right now because they're too busy and they couldn't handle any more projects. But you know what happens then? They start marketing only once they're quiet, and it takes a couple of months to build it back up again. And then you get into this cycle of busy, then quiet, then busy again. If you're at the start of your career, think about success as a process, not an event. You're not going to wake up one day and be swamped with 100 amazing project offers. It builds up gradually, and every new project that stretches your skills just a little bit prepares you for the next one. You're probably not prepared to work on multiple high-profile advertising campaigns all at once right now, but by the time that becomes a realistic situation, you'll have had plenty of practice and you will be prepared. You'll know your limits and you'll have developed systems and processes to make your life easier. You'll be well practiced in your style and more confident in your skills, and that comes with experience. So those are 5 big fears: failure, criticism, client, money, and even success. If any of them resonated with you, let me know in the comments. You are definitely not alone. These are very real, very human fears. Every creative has felt them to some extent, and if they've become successful, it means they've pushed through anyway. Don't let these fears make decisions for you. So here's a challenge for you. Pick one of these fears and figure out one small action you can take to fight back against it this week. Once you start, you'll realize it's never as scary in real life as it is in your head. Whatever that action is, emailing a client, sharing something on social media, negotiating a price, I've probably got a video that can help you out with that. You can check out this video next. See you next time.